Hello, everyone. Welcome to the combined November, December. I'm going to.
Ben, can you mute yourself?
Cool. All right. Welcome to the November, December combined State TA Day webinar. We do have a pretty packed agenda today. Remember, you're welcome to put your questions in the questions or in the chat. So we are going to start today with Melissa Swain, who is going to present a ratings update for everybody. So I'm going to let her. All right, Melissa, the floor is yours.
All right, good deal. I'm going to go ahead and share some slides here. If you guys can let me know that you can see them in a minute here. Let's see. There we go. Can you see my slides here?
Yes, we can see them.
Thank you. All right, perfect. We're just going to go over some updates on Colorado Shine's ratings, talk a little bit about our current status here. So as you all are aware, the interim virtual rating process is ending, and all of those resources that are on Clayton's website related to virtual ratings will be removed by January 3rd. With the end of virtual ratings, we are no longer asking who is ready to rate or what month is ideal. This is just because we were very flexible, of course, during the virtual rating process and as the initial challenges of the pandemic were happening. But now that we're returning to in-person ratings, we do need to resume typical scheduling patterns and protocols. The refreshed framework is launching, and the third editions of the environment rating scales, January 2022, which does include that return to in-person. Additionally, the refresh framework and evidence guides were released in early October to allow time for providers and coaches to prepare for all those upcoming changes. We are in the process right now of scheduling providers in the queue, and we are sending providers confirmation of their rating windows. There are over 100 programs in the queue right now. So if the provider is in the queue, they should certainly be prepared to rate. Providers in the queue have received numerous communications from our data manager, Josh Franklin, so they're aware that they are in the queue. Providers that have been holding in the queue should update their L3 through 5 application as soon as possible. So do please have them contact us to unlock that application so they can update their information. This just really helps us with accuracy and scheduling and projecting rating workloads. And just as a standard practice, so you know, when programs are officially notified, we do unlock that application to allow them to make those updates. But certainly the sooner the better here for getting that information updated. Additionally, programs that have submitted their L3 through 5 application should be expect to be scheduled. They may not get scheduled in the same month as they did 3 years prior. This is just because of that, queue that we were talking about and virtual ratings and all these adjustments we've made during the pandemic. We are giving priority to programs who do have that expired rating, who have been in the queue for a really long time, and we're still also considering, of course, new programs and programs expiring. And then programs are contacted by their quality assessment associate assigned as their lead approximately 1 week before their rating window opens to complete the orientation call or Zoom meeting. There has been some language causing confusion in automatic emails that says we'll contact them 1 month before. So that language is all being adjusted and revised. We're currently working on that. And programs used to get their orientation call approximately the first week of their rating window. Now we are calling them the last week of the month prior to their rating window. And this is just to ensure that providers do have that full 60 days or the 2 months for uploading their documentation and working on that process. Assessors may also contact providers a little earlier than that, just to review and confirm the number of classrooms and help get that session information revised. So just let providers know that within the last couple weeks of the month before their window, their lead assessor could be reaching out. So just wanted to give you an example of the rating window, because I know, this process has not changed, but virtual ratings were a bit different. So just want to share this to get us all reoriented to the process. So if a program is rating month is in March, that means their observations occur in March. Their assessor will complete their orientation call the last week in January. Their rating window, which is a 2-month period through February and March, opens February 1st. And that means staff and family surveys and L3 through 5 indicators will be open for uploading documentation. Their ERS 3 observation will occur sometime in the month of March. And then they can collect surveys and upload their L3 through 5 indicator documentation throughout their waiting window until 5 p.m. on March 31st. And then their window closes and their results will be released no later than April 30th. So just a reminder on kind of the timeline for rating activities. And then requests to postpone and have the rating held during postponement do require that official request through the early childhood councils with the state approval. And a valid reason for the request needs to be documented in the official request. So extensions are not guaranteed and may be approved or denied by the state Colorado Shines team. And the period is no more than 6 months. If a provider receives a formal extension, their application will be reversed and they will have to reapply. They will drop if they do not resubmit their application before their extension date expires. So we do recommend submitting that application no less than 2 months prior than that extension expiration date. And then a couple of ways you guys can support programs is by reaching out to them to make sure they're aware of their rating and reminding them to update their dashboard or contact information, adding yourself as the QI navigator if you're someone who's supporting that program, so you can get frequent updates through Salesforce chatter. And also encouraging providers not to wait to ask for an extension when Josh notifies them of their rating window or when their lead assessor calls for their orientation call. We have a lot of providers that are ready to rate, and when providers wait until the last minute to request their extension or drop, it really does impact our ability to get programs scheduled that are ready to go. So we just ask your help on these 3 things here in supporting our programs. Communication, so there's been some confusion on what to contact Josh for and what to not, so we just wanted to kind of lay this out here. So you can contact Josh Franklin, who's Clayton's data manager, for general scheduling questions, to unlock Colorado Shines applications for revisions, or if a provider wishes to re-rate, that's just a notification so Josh can track and make sure we can get him in the schedule. Or if a provider plans or has begun the formal extension request process, again, that's just to notify Josh so he's aware for scheduling. When an extension is improved, a great way to update Josh is by tagging him as well as Maria Dolan, who is one of our managers for the Colorado Shines project, in Salesforce chatter. This helps keep them all informed. That way we're not trying to schedule a program that's in that process. When to contact others. So if you have a formal request for a rating extension, providers need to contact their early childhood council, who will send that formal letter to the state Colorado Shines team. If you need to have an application reversed for any reason, you can contact the help desk, Colorado Shines help desk. If you have any PDIS concerns or questions, feel free to contact PDIS. And then the last slide is a bunch of resources here just for more information. We are still conducting the QRIS refresh information sessions There are a few more in December and a couple more in January, so you can register there. You can also review recorded sessions at the link there on Clayton's website. You can review recorded Colorado Shines question and answer sessions. We always keep the last 3 up there, so it's most current information. And then the program guide and evidence guides are on the Colorado Shines website at that link there. And then there's Josh Franklin's contact information, again, if you need it. So we certainly will be sending these slides out so Charlie can get them out to you all. So you will have a copy of these to save this information. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Melissa. One quick question from the chat. Do you happen to know what the current capacity is, like per month, what the rating capacity looks like?
Like observations or programs, I guess, numbers is what we're talking about. Yeah. So typically we have the capacity to visit up to 80 programs, which roughly comes out to about 80 observations, which roughly comes out to about 35 or 40 programs each month. And of course that varies depending on, the month. Like obviously December, there's a lot of holiday time off and such, so that's a little bit different, but our typical standard is trying to get in at least 80 observations a month, which is 35 to 40 programs.
Awesome, thanks. There are a couple other questions, if you don't mind just answering in the chat.
Of course.
But we do have to move along to our next presenter. So we appreciate you, Melissa. Thank you so much. We're gonna have Grace Eckel pop in, and she is going to just be available for questions. If anyone wants to unmute themselves, they can unmute themselves and ask a question, or raise their hand to be unmuted, or type a question. Grace, do you want to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you can answer questions about?
Certainly. Can you hear me okay, by the way, Charlie?
Yes, we hear you, we see ya.
Perfect. So hi, everyone. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Grace Eckel. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for the Office of Early Childhood, and appreciate getting to join you today. One of the areas of work that I lead is our American Rescue Plan and other stimulus funding, strategy development, and implementation. And so happy to answer questions on stimulus activities, but also while you're thinking of them, thought I could give a couple of updates on where we are with our work. So to start, we, as some of you may have heard, we are using our CRSA funds and ARP stimulus funds for Circle Innovation grants. We're really thrilled that we're in the final phases of negotiating with a vendor to administer these grants. And so these should be starting to open in this coming winter. So as a reminder, the Circle Innovation grants are aimed at addressing some of the challenges that have worsened by the pandemic. So they're open to childcare providers, but also community education and governmental partners to address some of the tough challenges that have only worsened with the pandemic. So really thrilled that that is moving along and should be opening soon. The next update that I wanted to share is that we closed our solicitation for the vendor to administer our childcare stabilization grants. As a reminder, the stabilization grants are about $200 million that will go out to all eligible childcare providers based on licensed capacity and quality, and over a 9-month grant period. So we're working through selecting the vendor next week, and we expect that the application for providers will open in January of 2022. We know that is a bit delayed from what we communicated at the town hall, but we are excited that that's moving along. We are also exploring opportunities for trainings for councils on the application prior to it being released, or kind of shortly after it being released, so that as questions come up, that councils are aware of how to direct providers to the right place and provide some support. And then the last kind of update is that our quality improvement incentive is underway, and we wanted to just clarify that and see if there were any questions, but I think there will be more communication. But we're really thrilled about the opportunity for this work to support providers in increasing their quality level and provide a bonus to recognize that work. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions. If you want to come off mute and answer anything or post in the chat, happy to take them.
I did want to just follow up on something Grace just said and highlight it. Last Friday on the Hot Topics call, I erroneously mentioned that we would be starting the quality grants effective January 1 with the ratings effective January 1. We're actually going to be using that October 1st date so that it coincides with when the announcement was made. We'll figure all that on the data system side and certainly let you know. Lilith is already aware that we're working that out, but stay tuned on that. And I just, first off, I apologize for getting wrong information out, but second off, just to reiterate that October 1st will be the start date for that.
All right, it looks like Tiffany has a question. I'm going to unmute you, Tiffany.
Thank you. Actually, Karen answered my question. I have a program that's ready to achieve a level 2, but I was telling her to hold off until I receive some additional information or wait until January 1 to ensure that those funds would be received. So thank you for answering that.
Well, thanks. And then where will the milestone funds appear?
Do you mind?
Stephanie, I'm going to unmute you if you don't mind sharing more about your question.
Hi, yes, I was just curious of where, I know they're supposed to go through sugar, but will it be in their TSQI or ESQI, or what does that look like?
Okay, that's a question for me. Sorry, Grace. Yeah, so how we're setting it up is that when the award amounts happen, they'll show up in the, and I don't know, Lil, if you're on, if I've got the right verbiage, but it'll show up as part of the requisition. From there, they can decide if they want you to issue them a check, and then you would process that, or they can spend those funds as they normally would under their ESQI, TSQI framework. So they might ask you for extra coaching, or they might ask you for extra materials, those sorts of things. You could leave it in there and spend it down that way, or you can pull it out at their request and actually issue a check for that. So, and again, as we get, the system should be up and ready January 1st, sorry. So we'll be sure and get guidance document out to all of you guys on all that stuff. Hopefully that helped.
Thank you. And then another question here, can programs do both?
Yes. Bottom line, these funds are for them. It's an award amount. It's for them to use however they need to use it. So if they want half of it to stay in CSQI and the other half of it to go into their operating funds, they can do that.
All right, let me see if anyone else has a hand raised.
While you're looking for that, I posted in the chat, hopefully you all can see, we do have a stimulus landing page on our OEC website, and we are keeping that updated. So we have 3 drop downs, open funding applications. So that's, for example, where we will put the stabilization grant once it's open. Same with the Circle grant. Open vendor opportunities. So for vendors to administer these programs, we keep track of what's open and able to apply for through our vendor self-service. And then also all of the stimulus information. So, you know, if you missed our town hall back in September, you want to go back and listen, that's linked and recorded there. And then also some overview documents on all of our activities. So, and we also have an FAQ document that as we get additional questions, we add the questions and the responses into that document so that everyone can stay informed of the latest information as we respond to it.
Cool. Thank you. Just a couple more questions in the chat I'm gonna run through. So can you confirm which monies are flowing through ECC, stabilization, and QI incentives? Just QI incentives, not the stabilization grants. That'll be a licensing process, correct?
The stabilization grants, we are procuring a vendor to administer. So we're in the process of selecting that vendor presently, but it won't be through the councils.
Cool. And then is there any documentation needed to issue the check, or can they just issue it? And I think Lilith has created a help document on EC Connect that helps with the process for cutting the check for these.
Yeah, I was getting ready to answer that, but yeah, once it's requested and they've met the requirements, they can be issued the check, and yeah, we will provide you with some guidance on that.
Cool. And then one more question here in the chat. If providers change levels in the middle of the 9 months payments, i.e. move from level 3 to level 4, will they get the level 4 reimbursement for the remainder of the time, or will everything be based on what their rating was as of October 1st?
So for the stabilization grants, the award amount will be determined on the level that they're at the time of their application for the stabilization grants. So we expect that that will open in January. And so for the stabilization grant, it'll be whatever they're at when they apply. We will have the application open for several months to allow for providers to make sure that all providers are aware of this opportunity and to make sure they're getting the funding. But their quality level will be what they apply. For the quality improvement incentive, that their kind of baseline or current quality level is as of October 1st.
Great, thank you.
And that just goes to say, if somebody is right in the middle of the rating process and they're waiting for their results, they certainly have the option to wait till, you know, later in the application process. So.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, Grace. I know you got to go, and we got to move on as well. So we really appreciate you joining us today. Do you mind just putting your email in the chat in case anyone has any follow-up questions?
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. So moving right along, we have Jennifer O'Brien, who is going to give us a credential update. So I'm gonna give it over to her.
Thank you, Charlie. Can you see my screen, Charlie?
Right now we're seeing the one, many documents against some beautiful blue water.
Well, shoot, that wasn't how it went in rehearsal. Let me see if I can adjust that.
Bad dress rehearsal, good opening night. Cool, yeah, now we see it.
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, we're just going to go with it again, Charlie.
No worries.
Okay, so I just wanted to share a few updates. Everyone, hi, it's nice to be talking to everyone. I wish I could see your faces. I'm imagining faces. But just wanted to give you a few updates on both the Credential and the help desk. And again, my name is Jennifer O'Brien. I'm with the Early Childhood Workforce Development Team at the Colorado Department of Education. Some of you may have been on the town hall or listening to the Early Childhood School Readiness Leadership Committee at the end of September. Where I was fielding some questions about the credential queue and how long it would take us to get through 800 credentials. And at that time, I committed to doing 800 credentials in 6 weeks, and the team ended up doing 750 during that time period, which we were really psyched about. It wasn't quite 800, but we will take it. And we are currently awarding an average of 85 early childhood professional credentials a week, and we are working on staffing amidst this crazy time that we're all dealing with, the Great Resignation. So just wanted to follow up with everybody on that one. Wanted to point out a new resource that the instructional design team over at the Office of Early Childhood did a really nice job on, and it's a more in-depth video of the early childhood professional credential. There's kind of a high-level overview, and this is a deeper dive into how we score the early childhood professional credential, so hopefully that's helpful. So I just wanted, so occasionally we hear questions like, how can you all help? And so I put together this slide. You can help us by getting the word out, right? And one of the things that we need help with getting the word out is that we need official transcripts at this time, right? So we're seeing quite a few unofficial transcripts, and we can't accept those. We need one training uploaded at a time. We need your help with helping professionals with guidance around demonstrated competency submission, and that guidance is linked there in the slide. And then another thing that we're seeing as we process credentials is professionals who are creating another account when they can't get into the one that they currently have. And that's problematic because then we have to merge accounts on the back end, which is a surprising amount of work. So if you could help us with that one, that would be great. And then the last thing is encouraging the use of the training alignment process, right? So training completion happens a little differently and gets registered into someone's account and calculated into the credential through a different, more efficient process. So, if you haven't explored that, I put the link on the slide so you can explore that process. I'll say a few words about the help desk. We are consistently closing an average of 375 cases a week. We're caught up with login cases. So this is an important piece, I feel like, for everybody to know. At one point, we decided to prioritize these cases, is get people in the system, and we're caught up with those. We're handling those within 24 hours. A way that you can help us with that is to get the word out about encouraging professionals to actually put the words login in the subject line when they create a ticket, when they email the PDIS help desk. That helps us cherry pick those cases and will help us get those taken care of ASAP. So I'll pause here, Charlie, for any questions that appear in the chat.
Sounds good. Let's see. Looks like Jennifer Walters has a question. I'm going to mute you, Jennifer. Jennifer, are you able to ask your question? All right, feel free to type it in the chat. See real quick. Tiffany, you still have your hand raised. Do you? Okay, should have got that. I don't think I'm seeing any other questions in the chat. So yeah, I think we are good to go. Cool. Jennifer just typed in her email if anyone has further questions. We really appreciate the hard work you and your team are doing, and you know this hasn't been an easy process, so we just really appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
You as well. All right. We are going to move along to Jennifer O'Brien, or I'm sorry, to Jennifer McDonald. And let me, hopefully this is the right sharing.
I might be able.
I think it worked. We're seeing a little cottage.
Wrong one. Let's try this one.
PDS and Training Updates.
All right.
And a little boy being kissed.
And everyone can hear me okay, I hope.
Yes.
So thanks for having me here today. I just want to go over some quick high-level PDS stats. I want to talk a little bit about some reporting functionality that as we're getting over the hump of getting folks logged in, we're able to do some exciting training reporting functionality for councils and for licensing specialists. And I want to talk a little bit about how you can support that process and happening. And then give a quick update on training, because there's still training development happening amongst all of the other stuff that we're working on. So just real quick, Jennifer talked a little bit about credential scoring numbers. So the real numbers I have on our screen for today are just a high-level overview of the number of professionals we have logging into the system. We're really excited with the amount of engagement that we have. So I know that there have been some login issues and there have been some bumps over the last, now if you can believe it, we're at 6 months since go live of the new system. But folks are getting in. We've had over 35,000 folks, professionals log into the PDIS, and over 116,000 course completions in that period of time. So we're really excited by the level of engagement. I know there's been some frustration, and I want to honor and acknowledge that, but at the same time, we're seeing a lot of success too in getting folks in the system. We're having an average of, I think at the height in August when the beginning of the school year was happening, we had about 3,500 users in the system every day. We're averaging anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 users accessing the system every day. Just to put those numbers in perspective, when the original system went live back in 2015, we had fewer than 50,000 course completions. So as we've built our course content and as we've had more free and required courses in the system, you can see our course completions go up every year. And if we stay on track with where we're at right now, we're probably be at 300,000 course completions by the end of this 12-month period. So we're increasing every year. And it's not all required training, just so you know. About 70% of the courses people are taking are those required trainings, which makes sense, but another 25 to 30% of courses that folks are taking are additional ongoing professional development for them. And so that's also a really exciting number too. So the next thing I want to talk about is training reports. And so councils will soon be able to review training reports for training completions in their council area. Same thing with licensing specialists. Licensing specialists are now going to be able, before a licensing visit, to go in and run a report of everybody attached to a license number, the training that they've completed. There's also some exciting functionality in the PDIS on what directors can do. They can look at training completions now for their staff, and they can also pull training reports and assign training for their staff. But in order for all of that to happen, there's a couple steps that need to happen first. And so I just want to go over that real quick as you're talking to professionals and programs and directors, kind of what they need to know on the back end in order to make all the magic happen. And there's, I could go into a lot of detail here. I'm going to try to do it at a high level, but feel free to ask questions as I go into some of this stuff. So for our example here, we're looking at a center. And so at this particular center, we have Bill's Child Care Test, and he's license number 1. And so we have a director of this program. We also have 3 staff at this program who have said, hey, I work here, and this is my number 1 primary place that I work. I've checked this as my primary employer. There are also 2 staff who work here who maybe work somewhere else, but Bill's isn't their primary employer. And there are a few staff who are listed Bills as they used to work here, but they no longer work here. This is an important distinction because of the different types of reports that directors and councils and licensing staff are going to be able to see. So councils and licensing are going to be able to run reports and see training completions for all staff tied to a license number, regardless of whether it's the primary employer or not. So anyone who's been verified by that director to say, yes, I work here today, they're going to be able to run training completion reports on that. The director, on the other hand, is only going to be able to assign training and run reports on those folks who've marked Bills as their primary employer. We have a little bit of a limitation in the learning management system right now that's only allowing that to happen for directors. But that's an important distinction, because if you get questions from directors who say, hey, I can't see all my staff, that is the difference, is that those staff haven't marked Bills as their primary employer. So as you're talking to folks, where they're going to make this update is in their employment record on the PDIS under employment. And they also need to select the employer that is attached to that. How can I put, they need to select in this drop down the actual employer, the specific employer where they work. So if they go into the other option and they type in Bills, the system is smart, but it's not smart enough to say that they understand that that's the same program. So if another professional is saying, hey, I'm not showing up on my director's reports or my licensing or my council reports, it might be that when they entered their employments, and I saw this when I was looking at stuff for DPS, that some professionals are just typing in the name of their provider, and that link is not going to be made. So
Jennifer, can I clarify something? Is this just for centers, or is this family home providers as well?
This would be family home providers as well. But
Awesome.
Their name, I believe when they go in and search under this employer, it's their name that's going to show up here.
Cool. Yeah, because I know that that's something that comes up a lot, is family home providers don't know that they need to link themselves to their own account.
Yes, because it links to that license number, and it differentiates between a place of employment versus I'm just in there as a professional. And so the other important thing to know is that directors can't add staff to their employment, and neither can licensing specialists or councils. That has to be professional initiated and then verified by the director. So the professional really does have control over this process, and that's another kind of important thing to know. So if a director's not seeing somebody, they just can't go in and search for professionals in the system and add them. So that's kind of a high level bit about reports and how they work. I do believe there's training coming out for councils on how to run reports, and there's more detail on how all of this works. That's coming, I think on the 16th, we have some time scheduled. So any questions on reporting before I move into some high level training updates? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay. Many of you may know that with the licensing rules that went into effect on December 1st, there are some new training requirements for staff. So I just want to highlight them real quick here. For all staff who care for and supervise children, there are two new training requirements. One is the Introduction to Early Intervention and Preschool Special Education Programs, and the other one is recognizing the impact of bias on early childhood professionals. Both of these courses are available in the system in English and in Spanish, and have been available. The bias course, I think, has been available for about 4 years now. So previous completions of those courses will still count. So if staff have already taken them, they're good to go. And just know that the bias course does also count as a social emotional clock hour. So that 1 year that staff take it, they'll get an hour of social emotional clock hour in addition to the required training hour. The other change is for staff who care for children 3 and under. The prevention of shaken baby syndrome is now required every 2 years as opposed to every year. And directors also have 2 new training requirements. Both of these courses are available in English and in Spanish. And both are a one-time requirement, and past completions again will count. So if somebody's already taking these courses, they're good to go. There is an updated training requirements chart that should be published any minute now to the website that lists out all the different trainings, when they're required, and whether it's before caring for children within 30 days or 90 days, and where you can find them. And so that'll be posted shortly, momentarily.
I do have one question here about credentials and about are councils able to run reports by credential level in their service area?
That's an excellent question. The training reports that are coming out of the learning management system are not linked to credential area, but it's definitely something. If you send me an email, I can investigate on whether that's a report we could put together.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So what's coming? In December, we published a new course, Supporting Families' Protective Factors. That course was published in English and in Spanish. That's a 1-hour course. We're excited about that one. A big one for required training, emergency preparedness and disaster response. This has been a pain point that I've been hearing about for many, many years in this job. That course will now be Colorado specific, written with Colorado scenarios and questions, and then available in English and in Spanish from within the PDIS beginning next month. We're also excited on injury prevention and playground safety courses for homes specifically, published in English and Spanish, coming early next year. And we're also publishing the mandatory reporter in Spanish. So I reached out to, I think it's Department of Community and Family, or I can't remember their exact title right now, but they're the ones who actually created the mandatory reporter course. It's only available in English. So I reached out, and as a part of some of our additional funding, we're able to get that translated into Spanish. We're collaborating with the office. And so that should be coming probably middle of next year. So we're really excited about that one as well. And I think that's all I have.
Any other questions for Jennifer? We'll give it a minute. Thank you so much. And we know how hard you all have been working to get this moving, and you and your team are very, very much appreciated, Jennifer.
Well, and I just want to take also a moment to say thank you to everybody on the call and everybody's patience and grace. I've been asking for it for 6 months. This has not been an easy transition to the new system. I think we can all acknowledge that, but I just really, really, really appreciate everybody's part that they had to play in it. So thank you.
Thanks. And one quick question did pop up. Is there a training on how PDIS handles data privacy and protocols?
There was a training on PDIS that was very outdated, and that's one of the trainings on the list for us to refresh and update for all folks who get reporting access.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So Lisa is going to do some celebrating with us. So I'll hand it over to her.
Yeah, okay. Tell me, let's see. I gotta pick which screen I am. Nope, not that one. I think this one. Let's see if that, did I get a screen?
Yes, we're
Okay.
seeing.
And it's the side you should be seeing.
I think so. It's
Not
a
my
heart in the
notes.
middle. So
It's what's in the middle? Oh, it's the
heart.
chat box is in the middle. Can you see
Yes.
it now? Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and answer Randy's question here too. Will FEMA come back to PDIS? Because the issue with the FEMA course is that we didn't create that course either. So it was outside of the old PDIS, and it was a little bit easier to link to in the old PDIS. And the course that Jen mentioned, the disaster preparedness course, that's going to be, and now I'm going to forget the dates that it's going to be published, but we're published and available within PDIS on, she's coming back to make sure I get this right, on in Spanish and English, Colorado specific. Such a huge win for our state to kind of cover all of those initial primary required courses that are federally required, is coming in January. Did I get the date right?
Coming in January. And the other thing I'll say about FEMA, that FEMA course, is it's only been linked in the PDIS. It's still available, that federal one. If you go in and search for it, FEMA for child care providers, you can still come up. We're working on updating the link in our FAQ document. And so, but yes, the answer is yes, and it's still available today. Folks can find it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it was a hard one. Thank you. A hard one to find, but again, one of those important reminders. And I'm also grateful to Jen, because I love to talk about babies and love to talk about the work that your infant toddler specialists are doing. And she gave me back a tiny bit more time without taking more away from the rest of your agenda. So as you know, the slice of the Colorado Early Childhood Framework to which the EQ initiative contributes through you and your efforts and your councils is that slice that holds the infants and the toddlers and the families and caregivers who care for those babies through the enhancements of that one most non-negotiable experience in early childhood, that every baby must have at least one consistent, continuous relationship in every care setting that they're in. And we have a lot of things to celebrate. And I thought it's nice at this quarter to celebrate the things we have to celebrate. So our strategic plan, our top priority in building your local capacity in the form of an infant toddler specialist, as you know, is to train those coaches and trainers to become infant toddler specialists so that they can provide those evidence-based training opportunities and coaching opportunities in your community. Most of that is the EQIT course and the coaching and enhanced coaching that goes with that. And I want to share some fidelity data today on, thank you to the 15, I was going to say 14, but 2 more came in yesterday, the 15 councils who were able to get your first quarter report in. So we're looking at data from that first quarter of this state fiscal year. And I do still want your first quarter data if you haven't had the chance to get that in yet. So this is where this data falls in our strategic plan, is the measures of fidelity for the class, and then the reach of EQIT and coaching, including Lean and Grow. And I'm going to share just some wonderful celebrations across the reach of the EQIT course in the first quarter. So we ask each person who completes an EQIT course to fill out a survey on how the course went and what they liked about it and what they learned and who they are. So those demographic needs, I was excited to see. We've had about 1/3 of people who enroll in EQIT in the first quarter did not complete the course. However, of all the people who completed the course, about 160 people, and the 117 who responded to the survey, only 10 of those do not serve infants and toddlers. So we think that the work that you're doing is meeting the target audience. Infant toddler early care educators who are in your communities are benefiting from this course, staying in it, and filling out the survey at the end. 30 of those 117 indicated that they joined the course because someone told them to do so. So a director or a licensing specialist or another educator said, you should really take this course. So again, that reflects that your infant toddler specialists are doing a fantastic job of providing this course responsively, probably virtually. That word of mouth continues to encourage people to participate. 82% said they joined the class in order to meet early childhood teacher, infant program supervisor, or other individual qualifications, including 7 people who needed it to upgrade their family child care license to a 3-under-2, an experienced license, or a infant toddler home. And that tells us again that there continues to be a need for this course and the ways in which it is honored in the bigger system. And remember that EQIT is not designed as a qualification pathway. It's for in-service teachers who are already working with infants and toddlers. That's the most effective, and we'll get to that fidelity piece in just a moment. But we do want it to be honored because we never want someone to participate in quality ongoing professional development that isn't honored in the system, which is why we have this PDIS that now works together so much more efficiently, and you'll be able to see those training reports, for example. We believe that EQIT and all the efforts of the Infant Toddler Specialist Network impact workforce retention. 13 people among that survey respondents said that they were thinking about quitting the field before taking EQIT, and it changed their mind, or they have now changed their mind. We know there's lots of factors that drive these things. 96 people indicated that EQIT strengthened their intent to stay in the field. That's higher than this number has ever been. It kind of reminds us of that diathesis stress theory of children, right? When children are most in need of support, when they get a little support, they're most likely to benefit from it. When our educators are most in need of that responsive support that an infant toddler specialist can provide, it's really benefiting them. 16% said they're looking for a different job now because they know what quality care for infants and toddlers should look like. And this is also an increase over previous years. So again, great job for your EQ infant toddler specialists, really reaching and meeting the needs of the workforce. And we'll look forward to getting more. There are about 20 courses finishing in the next 10 days. So we'll look forward to getting more feedback for the whole first half of the year. And then each council will receive the data back from these surveys at that point. Now, as you may or may not know, depending on how much time you spend with EQIT, there's some pieces of the course itself that indicate to us that it's being implemented to fidelity. Team teaching with 2 instructors, all 16 modules, full 48 hours, 3 hours each. When we talk about the replication of the EQIT curriculum, it's always having those adult learning strategies like presenting central themes and agendas so those adult learners know how to connect what they already know with what they're learning. There's interactive learning experiences. No one can sit through 3 hours of Zoom and learn anything. A strategy called Relate Reflections, which is a bridge from what they're learning in the course to what they're doing and trying in their care setting, and evaluations so that those, despite the course needing to be replicated as it's written, we always want those EQIT instructors to be responsive to the needs of this group of participants and what they have. So we ask questions about these areas of fidelity to how this course is meant to be implemented. And those have come back to us amazing. So my instructors use the central themes, more than 100, 90% of the participants. And I would say an answer of 4 or 5 is an excellent answer, right? We all, they're all in the positive end. My class was mostly interactive or small group learning experiences with not much sitting and listening. This has been hard in Zoom, so we're not surprised that we see a few of these lower numbers, but this still, again, the vast majority of the responses indicating that participants are getting to share their knowledge with each other and grow from each other as much as they are from the instructors. My instructors reminded us to review their Relate reflections for each module, and then we talked about them and we came back. And again, this is that bridge from interactive learning to practice with children and families. And we're seeing your team's doing an excellent job of being that bridge, providing that foundation for where coaching is going to begin. Each time I attended a class, there were 2 instructors and they both did some of the talking and teaching. We had one class that did run with only 1 instructor, and I'm certain there were 5 people in that class. So I'm certain that's what this number 1 is. I will narrow down in there, but again, the vast majority of participants are getting the opportunity to build a relationship with both instructors. We were asked to fill out an evaluation, and I don't require this to be every course, but this, again, we see most people having the experience that they're getting the opportunity to evaluate the course. Then we asked this question, and sorry, the question's kind of cut off here because it's too long. What is the relationship you have with your EQIT instructor before you start the class, and that's in blue, and after the class? You had no relationship, I knew who they were, or I have a good relationship, and we see the trend we want to see. Many people said that before they started EQIT, they had a good relationship with one or more of their instructors. And I love seeing that because it tells me your EQIT instructors, your infant toddler specialists are embedded in your community. They are already building relationships with your infant toddler early care education workforce, so that when those people are ready to grow, they come to this course, they come to their coach. Now, that was all just the first quarter. So that's the course is being implemented to fidelity throughout the pandemic. Fantastic, thank you. And then I have one last piece of data that speaks to the fidelity of the model, which is, of course, a course plus coaching. We know that practice change happens when coaching happens, which is why we're so thrilled for those training reports. So you and your counselor are going to be able to say, look, here's all the content that folks in our community know. Let's coach them to the things that they learned about in this course. And EQIT, as you know, was submitted to randomized control study in 2012 and indicated that our evidence base is that course plus somewhere between 8 and 15 hours of coaching is where change starts to happen. So this is a record of the entire federal fiscal year. We report this data to our federal partners. For those of you who didn't get your first quarter report in, there might be even better data when you get your report in, and I can add it to this data. But this is the number of people among all the people who received coaching who received 8 or more hours. So that side axis is the number of individuals who received that number of hours of coaching in the last federal fiscal year. So there are, and I want to say it's 99 or 102 people altogether that these bars represent who received 8 or more hours of coaching. So we know that they're building the relationship and starting to have the support for practice change. This does include our Lena Grow Enhanced coaching hours that were funded by the EQ initiative, which maybe looks like a padding, but it's a great model. And we're happy to continue to start to support it, as well as piloting filming interactions to nurture development in the coming year to make sure that every infant toddler early care educator who participates in anything gets the opportunity to get those 8 or more hours of coaching that grow their work. So those are our celebrations for the first quarter of the year, and the last one being thank you to all of you who sent in applicants for the new cohort of infant toddler specialists who will start in January. That application really is closed, but let us know if you still have somebody on your list who needs to be trained as a new infant toddler specialist for your community. And I will pause for questions and give the screen share back.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Does anyone have any questions for Lisa? All right, I'm not seeing any, but we know how to get a hold of you. Thank you so much.
You know where I am. All right, thanks everybody. Keep up the good work.
You too. All right, Lilith Huff Munoz is going to give us a quick update on EC Connect updates and highlights.
Thanks, Charlie. Can you see my screen right now?
Just your, yes, now we can see.
Cool. So this will be pretty quick. I do apologize to all wonderful, hardworking councils and individuals that are signed up for the quarterly Sugar and EC Connect e-newsletter. Things have just been very, very busy, and this was a little bit of a late newsletter this year. Or this quarter. So I do apologize for that and hope everyone is able to read this and kind of delve into it as people start coming back for the new year and benefits from all the updates that we've kind of been making in Sugar and EC Connect to make others, their work and everything that they're doing just a little bit more smooth and streamlined. So if you did not receive this quarterly newsletter, please let me know. Sometimes it does go to your junk folder, and sometimes the security settings within your network or on your computer like to say, no, you shouldn't receive this. So just if you're not, go ahead and check those out first and just let me know if there may be some more technical issues we need to troubleshoot regarding that. But in this issue, it's Sugar and EC Connect updates, a little bit of that reminder of the provider-based award amounts, and then a little bit of that reminder for the provider rating incentive. So I won't go through it in a lot of detail. I will note that we do have a new team member joining us here at Denver's Early Childhood Council, and that will be part of our help desk team for that EConnect support site. And her name is Jessica Arnold. So you will start to see her after the new year, more answering some of those help desk tickets or being included in communications, as she will be on my team helping me out with all of the wonderful tickets that come in, and just really good customer support and providing that assistance to early childhood councils. So if you get a response back from her, please do welcome her to the support site. And you know, with a new individual coming on and helping me out with that, you know, we'll have this a little bit more on track in the new year. So anyways, we've got some updates and resources. We have some new MOU flow updates. And again, if you did not receive this email, please contact me if it is not related to your security setup on your computer or on your organization. And then transfer conversion permission updates. These are all relatively small updates that we put into place to kind of make sure that things were running a little bit more smoothly, that councils had a little bit more say in who could, for example, transfer or convert hours to dollars or dollars to hours for their council. And then MOU flow updates being, we were encountering quite a few help desk tickets where MOU emails were not being delivered. And so we had to kind of troubleshoot a bit there and make sure that this process was working correctly. So we've also got some shipping discount updates and some preventing coaching overages updates. You can read more about those. All of these updates have articles linked in there, and so you can click on that. And then I don't know, it will follow my screen, but in case it didn't, then hopefully everyone can see that will open up the support article on the EConnect support site that you will be able to look over and get a little bit more information about that update that we made in Sugar or EConnect. And then one of our last one is communications now visible in the coaching dashboard in EConnect. So if you are a council that utilizes the communications sub-panel or module in Sugar, and you say to track provided communications or phone calls you're making or visits or anything like that, whatever communications that you're having with providers, that's a really great place to track it. And now those communications are visible in the coaching dashboard in EConnect, so that when coaches log in to their coaching dashboard, if there are any communications that were recorded, then they can now see those communications and kind of see maybe if coach and navigator are a separate individual or separate staff at your council, they can kind of see what navigators were communicating with the sites about, and just kind of providing that kind of facilitating and providing that collaboration and communication efforts if your council does employ more than just one individual who does it all. And if you are the person that does it all, you have even more of that information at your fingertips if you're logging in and logging those coaching hours as well. And so those were kind of the 5 new updates that we did in Sugar. Again, they're relatively small, but hoping that they will just increase being efficient, being more user-friendly, and just making things a little bit smoother while you're trying to operate your councils and serve those providers. We have I have a little bit of information on here about those base award increases that have already gone into effect. But just a reminder that that's there, a reminder of where the recording can be found, and then just a quick updated award amounts so that people can see what those award amounts are. And if you're seeing something funky, then definitely write into the support site. And then we also have the provider rating incentive awards, just a little bit about that. I know that Karen mentioned it briefly on this call. What I have in here is a documentation with information about the basics. So kind of already the things we've outlined, getting you ready for this new update coming. And if you have any programmatic questions, to reach out to your program officer. And if you have any more technical questions, we will try and answer those in the help desk as well. And we will bring in the program officer if that's something that can illuminate the answer for us. So that is there, and also as the recording for the October State Day. I can also link this recording as well if there's information that we need to include. Really all for now. And then we hope that everyone has a really restful and wonderful new year and holiday season. And again, if you have any help desk questions, just submit them to that support at econnectcolorado.org. The response times will be a bit delayed. I know all councils have kind of a different time off schedule. I myself will be out starting the 21st, and so response times may be a bit delayed until the new year. But hoping that everyone is taking some time off to take care of their needs, their family, their pets, their projects, whatever it may be, and just wishing everyone a wonderful new year. And if you have any questions, I'll try and see them in the chat. Otherwise, feel free to submit them to the support site.
Thank you so much, Lilith. And I feel like the library that you've created, the help library in EC Connect, is an unutilized resource that everyone should take advantage of. I know you work really hard on those articles. They're very clear and easy to read and easy to navigate. So we really appreciate the work you put into those.
I appreciate your kind words, Charlie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Is Melissa Frank Williams on?
Hello.
Hello. You must be the other Department of Human Services presenter. Yeah.
Probably.
All right, let's see. Did that work?
Can you see anything else?
No.
Besides me?
Okay. How about now?
Show my screen. There we go.
Cool. We see your dashboard.
Alrighty. How about now?
Yep.
Alrighty. Hi, everybody. I am excited to be here and with another E&E update. Lots of changes to report. So let me, sorry, can you see all this other business? You probably can, right? So let's go ahead and take that down. Okay. All right, so here we are, December. Jumping right into the numbers. So these numbers are looking a little bit different, and thanks to all of your hard work, we're actually seeing a lot of movement of our application. So as everybody knows, on November 1st, we closed the E&E application, so no new applications, but we do have a lot to work through, and we did have a lot more to work through, and thankfully folks have been really helping with that at our early childhood councils and the licensing specialist teams. So here's where we stand. Currently, we have the total that have actually come through that were eligible was 324 from the very beginning. And we have granted 6.1 million. So that is up from last month, almost 1 million. So we've successfully awarded this many. The total funds remaining is at 6.6, and as folks will remember, we had a additional 4 million in the pot, and so our total right now is 12.7, and of those 6.6 have been granted. So the number of slots that translates to is 3,679. So we've added 558. These are not necessarily confirmed by licensing yet. These are the numbers that go into the application when somebody applies. But what I'm finding is that some of the older applications didn't have that number filled in. So, and when I check the ones that did fill it in compared to what licensing is certified, they're pretty close. So I am hopeful that as we go forward, we will see those increase at a pretty steady rate, and as we work through this 10.4 million. That's still outstanding, and that's down by 2 million, actually 2.8 So that's because, as you probably all have seen from the emails that I have sent, and the work that you've been doing to work with licensing specialists to get these through, we've been able to work through 2.8 million over the last month. And then that would, if all of those came to be actual slots, that would be close to 4,000 slots, but let's just be conservative and cut that in half. And even with that figure, as you can see, we're doing really well on improving the number of slots for infants, toddlers, and preschoolers in the state. So here's where the distribution pans out. So we have 59% that are in these really low, very low capacity areas, and 25% that are in low capacity areas. So altogether, that's 84, right? Did I do that right? Yep, 84%. 84% that are really in those lower capacity areas of our state. So awesome work. So here's how things are breaking down right now. We have by council this report, and really just to make it super simple, the ones that are purple bars are under review. So going back to this graph, these are the ones that are still, like, we're still whittling away at these. So how that translates for you and your councils is that you'll see the purple bars are the ones that are still under review, and the blue bars are the ones that have been approved. So the blue bars are this figure here, actual grants that have been awarded to programs. So our hope is over the next couple of months that we see these blue bars move up and the purple go away, and we can get more funds out to programs. Just a couple of important tidbits. As folks know, funding is competitive. We still, do have a pretty sizable difference between the number of applications to process versus the amount of funding that's available, even with that additional 4 million. So some of the things that we're taking into consideration collectively when looking at these applications, people have been really great about putting and updating a clear and detailed budget in these programs. From the programs and putting them into Salesforce. A couple of things to keep in mind too is that please don't worry in terms of prioritization about prioritizing in the budget. If you did with your providers, great. If not, if everything else is in there and there's a lot of detail, but that prioritization of what that provider is interested in getting funded for isn't in the actual budget, you can always put it in the ECC notes section. And so I look at that and I can say when we're reviewing these, oh, yes, their capital is number 1, followed by materials number 2, or professional development, or whatever it is. So you can just use those main categories and say this is how the provider wants to prioritize. Again, in the Google Drive, there's some samples of the detailed budgets if you want to see them. 2 bids for capital requests, and that's something that we're really asking for folks to put in, because now that we're getting on a tighter timeline and we are looking at tighter budgets or tighter funding, we want to make sure that we're getting pretty close to what we think the capital costs are going to be. So that's why we're asking for those bids to be uploaded in the system. The other thing I wanted to ask is that if you haven't already, please go to the shared drive, and in there there's a checklist, and it really is an easy way, a snapshot to see where who's on first, basically. So who has the ball in their court, so to speak, in terms of the licensing specialist, me, or our review team, or the supervisor of the licensing teams, or the ECC. So as you guys know, as you go through, everybody has a little part, and the checklist really helps clarify who's doing what at what point throughout this process. This is new. So right here, I started going through, and it used to be we looked at just the ones that were over 60 days. Now with everything getting contracted into this shorter time frame, if there's a note that's over 3 weeks old, please go in and update it. And the other thing is that for some applications, if we're waiting on information from the provider, because things are getting so tight, we're really asking that the provider provide that information to us or to licensing within 2 weeks. So for instance, like if you as an ECC, you're waiting for them to give the budget to you, we're saying, hey, please ask for that in a return time of 2 weeks. Unfortunately, if we don't get that additional information, we'll have to start withdrawing applications because we still have quite a number that are still sitting and waiting to move forward. And then also, when you do communicate that with the provider, if you could put in your notes that you've asked that and provided that timeline to the provider, that would be fantastic, and that way we know. And so this is just another reminder around how we're prioritizing. We're looking at those low capacity areas, you know, that 84% of applications that have come in. The folks that are serving infants and toddlers, so those do weigh heavily since we have such a shortage. Children with special needs. Project costs, you know, folks have been doing a great job about making sure that this is really connected to the program, that the requests, particularly the capital requests, are very much connected to improving the safety and quality of the programs. And the cost ratios are reasonable, and that if a project is, if the provider is able to put in additional money, that's always great. So if it's not in the budget, maybe they have an older budget that doesn't have that line in there where the column asks what the provider's contributing, feel free to put that again in that ECC notes field, and then that way we know. And again, just a reminder about the Google Drive with all those documents that I mentioned earlier. And that's it. So as folks may have seen, this is my last TA day with you all. Really, thank you so much. It's been really, really wonderful to get to know many of you. I'm sure our paths will probably cross again. I'm still staying with OEC. I will be working as the Family Support Systems Manager under a different division, but a lot of the work, as we know, is it crosses over. So I look forward to working with all of you. Most of you in some other capacity moving forward. Thanks so much. Any questions?
I'm not seeing any. Hang on.
We had a couple questions. I answered them in the chat, but Jessica, why don't you and I follow up if you're still concerned?
All right. Many thank yous.
Oh, thank you all.
And really, Melissa, you have done so much to get this grant moving and off the ground, and have created some wonderful systems that'll make your transition much easier for us. And we appreciate all the work that you've done to get this rolling, and to you know, have more spots for the children of Colorado to access quality education. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all too. It's been wonderful working with you guys.
All righty. So it's my turn. Let's see. Hopefully this will show the right screen. Can everyone see the application screen that I'm on?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just pointing out a change, something that occurred when the system switched over to move away from the virtual ratings and back to the regular ratings. Some of you may notice that QIP goals may not be appearing. So we wanted to just make sure that you all knew they did not disappear. They have moved to the archive. So I'll show you where that is. You can access, as you know, you can access QIPs either from the QI application or just this quality improvement tab up here at the top. So now when you go to my QIP, the current QIP are going to be the goals that inform, for example, that might transfer over to sugar, or that might inform how quality improvement funding is spent. This is what goes into the rating, all of that. There's the completed QIP here, so that's goals that have been completed. And now there is this new drop down for an archive QIP. So there are goals that may have been put into a category that are no longer being utilized in the rating. Those goals will appear here. And the way to move them back into the current QIP would just be to create a new goal in the QIP, current QIP, and copy and paste the information from the archive QIP back into the current QIP. So if a provider is wondering what happened to their QIP, where is everything? I spent hours doing it. Nothing has disappeared, but it may have moved to the archive QIP and may need to be moved back. So that is that in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions on that? Let's see, Tiffany, you have your hand raised. I'm gonna unmute you.
To the select a category, one of the options used to be the professional development coaching, and it's no longer there.
So different than workforce qualifications and professional development?
So when you go into add a quality improvement goal, yes, so workforce professional development, and then one of the subcategories used to be coaching.
Right.
And it's not there any longer. And that was how my coaches were able to link their QI goal with their coaching usage for Sugar or for EC Connect.
Okay. Karen, you...
Well, you're gonna have to click out a category, click out, and then go to subcategory.
Okay, so it might be professional development and then the subcategory.
Yeah, it's reflective practice now, which that didn't exist before either.
Right. So it is actually directly related to the new framework. So you'll just need to look at the new framework to see where that fits in, but coaching falls under reflective practice.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Oh, for sure.
Right, let's see if there are any other hands raised. I know that there are a few questions in the chat that Karen is working on answering. Not seeing any other hands raised. All right, does anyone have any other questions or anything else they would like to bring up or discuss? We do have about 6 minutes left, which I'm blown away by after covering so much.
I'm just going to make a note that we will be sending out the transcript with all of your with all the information that we presented, so that I know there's been a couple of folks who've indicated, gosh, I don't know if questions are being answered or not, and they're not seeing them, you know, real time always within the webinar. So we will be sure and get that transcript sent out to you guys as well, so that you can see that what questions were asked and what answered and how we answered those. So that'll be something we'll definitely be doing going forward.
And then Karen, there is a question here. Is Emily joining as a QRIS coordinator again?
Actually, Emily will be coming on just part-time to help us out, and she's supposed to start mid-December, but we're actually going to get her now early January. So she was actually going to come in and probably take the lead on the E&E stuff when she gets here. Again, we probably will only have her between 15 and 20 hours a week, but I know that's going to be a big help. So we still do not have our QRIS coordinator position posted. I wish I could tell you why. I'm working on that with HR, but hopefully soon. So we will be hiring that position full time. So
awesome. Yeah, just know Michelle and I are, we're splitting the duties right now. So if we are taking a little bit longer to respond, or just have patience, but we try our best. All right, any other questions or comments or anything like that? All right, Michelle is great. I agree. Cool. Well, I will be sending out follow-up materials and the link to the recording of this webinar on Tuesday. I'll be out the next couple of days. So you will have all the information that was presented today by Tuesday. Feel free to reach out to Michelle or I or the Colorado Shines Help Desk if anything comes up before then. We appreciate this group so much. We are doing so much for the children of Colorado, and yeah, we really appreciate you all. So thank you so much for hanging in. I know there was a lot of information today, so thanks for hanging in there, and I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and a wonderful new year. And I look forward to seeing everyone again soon.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.